The immense crystalline dome of the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber reflected the light of 3 distant suns. The rays cast rainbow patterns across the gathered representatives of over 2,000 civilizations. The chamber stretched nearly half a kilometer in diameter, with curved walls that rose hundreds of meters high. Hovering platforms arranged in concentric circles held delegates from worlds most humans had never heard of. At the center of this imposing space stood Admiral Eliza Morgan, the lone human delegate. Her navy blue uniform with silver trim looked plain and primitive, compared to the exotic attire of the alien representatives surrounding her. Despite being dwarfed by many of the delegates, Morgan stood with perfect military posture, her face betraying no emotion. The chamber fell silent as Supreme Arbiter Korval rose from the central dais. The Arbiter towered nearly 4 meters tall, its body seeming to shift between solid form and shadow. 4 gleaming eyes studied Morgan with ancient intelligence. The Galactic Council has convened to address the petition from the Consortium of Advanced Species, Korval announced, its voice resonating throughout the chamber without appearing to come from any specific direction. The petition concerns humanity's recent activities, specifically their unprecedented expansion beyond their home system and the incident at the Proxima Centauri outpost. Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing Earth vessels defending themselves against an unprovoked attack. The recordings showed human ships outgunned and outclassed, somehow managing to defeat a squadron of consortium warships through what appeared to be impossible maneuvers and unorthodox tactics. The alien delegates began murmuring uneasily. Some gestured with appendages of various forms. Others communicated through color changes or scent markers. The consortium formally requests containment protocols be implemented immediately, announced Delegate Vresh, an insectoid being whose green carapace gleamed under the lights. His mandibles clicked with obvious agitation. Humans represent an unacceptable threat to galactic stability. Their unpredictable nature and aggressive expansion must be curtailed before they destabilize this sector. Admiral Morgan remained perfectly still, her expression revealing nothing as the accusations continued. Several other delegates rose to support the consortium's petition, describing humanity as dangerously unpredictable, technologically reckless, and evolutionarily unstable. The Supreme Arbiter raised a limb for silence, and the chamber immediately quieted. Before judgment is rendered, the Council recognizes Krag of the Vorsek, who has requested to speak on this matter. A wave of shocked whispers swept through the chamber. Even Morgan turned slightly, her composure briefly breaking to reveal surprise. The crowd parted as a massive figure entered through the main doors. The delegates fell completely silent, many shrinking back in visible fear. Some smaller species actually fled their platforms, their hovering transports racing for the upper exits. Krag, legendary hunter of the Vorsek, approached the center of the chamber. The Vorsek were known throughout the galaxy as apex predators and elite mercenaries. Their species evolved on a death world with gravity twice that of Earth, giving them incredible strength and density. Krag's dark-scaled body bore the ceremonial markings of over 300 successful hunts of the galaxy's most dangerous beings. Standing nearly 3 meters tall even with his perpetual hunter's crouch, his forearms ended in clawed hands that could tear through starship hull plating. What made his presence truly shocking was that the Vorsek rarely involved themselves in politics. They were hunters and warriors, not diplomats. Krag approached until he stood perhaps 10 meters from Admiral Morgan. The human woman looked tiny beside the legendary hunter, yet she made no move to step back. "I have hunted across 17,000 worlds." Krag's voice was unexpectedly soft, almost gentle. It contrasted sharply with his fearsome appearance. "I have tracked and captured creatures that exist beyond normal space-time. I have ended threats that many here refuse to acknowledge." He turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. "But I will never hunt humans." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The Vorsek were known to hunt anything if the price was right or the challenge sufficient. "You ask why?" Krag continued, his 4 yellow eyes fixing on the Supreme Arbiter. "Because I wish to live." Without asking permission, he activated a personal projector from a device on his armored forearm. The holographic display expanded, showing footage of a human settlement on a remote mining colony called Titan's Edge. The timestamp indicated it was recorded less than a planetary cycle ago. The footage showed a Vorsek hunting party, not Crag's Arar stalking the outpost. There were 6 hunters, all fully armed with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. What followed silenced even the whispers in the chamber. The hunters became the hunted through a series of ingenious traps, environmental manipulations, and psychological warfare. The humans, outmatched in every physical way, separated the hunting party and eliminated them one by one. They used the mining equipment, the harsh environment, and even the Vorsek's own technology against them. Not a single Vorsek survived. The humans knew they were outmatched in strength, speed, and technology, Krag explained. So they changed the rules of engagement. They didn't fight as we expected. They studied us, learned our weaknesses, and turned their own environment into a weapon. He approached Admiral Morgan, towering over her but maintaining a respectful distance. You seek to contain them? To cage them? Krag laughed to sound like grinding stone. I tell you this, the more pressure you apply, the more dangerous they become. Delegate Vresh's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. This is one isolated incident. Their ships and weapons are primitive. They have barely mastered faster-than-light travel. Primitive? Krag turned his massive head toward the insectoid delegate. You mistake simplicity for primitiveness. Their weapons and ships are designed to be repaired with minimal resources, to be adapted and modified in the field. When your perfect technology fails, you wait for replacements. When human technology fails, they improve it. The Supreme Arbiter's form shifted slightly. What makes them so dangerous in your assessment? Krag's upper arm spread wide in a gesture rarely seen from a Vorseka respect. They are the only species I have encountered who thrive on adversity. Most species evolve to fit their environment. Humans change their environment to fit their needs, and when they cannot change it, they change themselves. As Krag turned to leave, Supreme Arbiter Corval asked, What would you recommend, Hunter? Krag paused at the chamber's threshold. Learn from them. Partner with them. Or leave them alone. His eyes swept the chamber one final time, but never ever corner them. The judgment session dissolved into chaos as Krag exited, leaving Admiral Morgan standing alone in the center of the vast chamber. A slight smile played at the corners of her mouth as thousands of the galaxy's most powerful beings argued about the fate of humanity. After several minutes, Supreme Arbiter Corval raised all 4 of its limbs, demanding silence. Admiral Morgan, the Council would hear Earth's response to these accusations. Morgan stepped forward, her voice clear and strong, despite having no technological amplification. The people of Earth did not seek conflict with the consortium. We defended ourselves when attacked without provocation. We seek neither dominion nor conquest, only the right to explore and exist. And the incident at Titan's Edge? Asked a delegate from the outer ring. Those were civilian miners, not soldiers, Morgan replied evenly. They were protecting their homes. Is self-defense a crime under Council law? The Supreme Arbiter's form seemed to solidify slightly. The Council will deliberate. Until judgment is passed, humanity will be granted observer status only. You will not leave the Council station, Admiral. As the session ended and the delegates dispersed, a tall, slender alien with iridescent skin approached Morgan. Its features were almost featureless except for large, almond-shaped eyes. First time in the Grand Chamber? It asked in perfect English. Morgan nodded once. First time representing all of humanity before a governing body that could wipe us out with a single order? Yes. I am Talaris Ven, xenoanthropologist from the Silurian Collective, the alien said. I found the proceedings fascinating. Glad someone enjoyed themselves, Morgan replied dryly. Talaris tilted its head. The Council fears what it doesn't understand. And no one here understands humans. It glanced toward the exit Krag had used. Except perhaps him. And you? Morgan asked. I would like to, Talaris replied. Perhaps we could speak while the Council deliberates? I have many questions about Earth. Morgan studied the alien carefully before nodding. I suspect we both do. As they left the chamber together, neither noticed the small drone following them, its optical sensors transmitting directly to an unmarked vessel, hiding at the edge of the Council station's sensor range. The hunt had already begun. Talaris Ven moved gracefully through the crowded observation deck of the Council station. The xenoanthropologist's iridescent skin reflected the starlight streaming through the vast transparent dome overhead. After departing the Grand Chamber, with Admiral Morgan they had agreed to meet here, away from the immediate scrutiny of the Council delegates. The observation deck offered a breathtaking view of the galactic arm, with billions of stars spread like jewels against the darkness. The station orbited in neutral space at the convergence of 7 major trade routes, allowing for relatively easy access from most civilized systems. Talaris spotted Morgan standing alone near the edge of the deck, gazing out at the cosmos. The human silhouette was small against the backdrop of infinity. Several alien visitors gave her a wide berth, some throwing curious glances her way, others deliberately ignoring her presence. "Magnificent, isn't it?" Talaris said, approaching the Admiral. Morgan nodded without turning. "On Earth, most people still can't travel beyond our moon. They've never seen a view like this. Yet your species adapts to space travel with remarkable ease," Talaris observed. "Most species require generations to fully acclimate to the psychological effects of deep space." Morgan finally turned to face the tall alien. "Perhaps it's because humans have always looked up at the stars and imagined being among them. We've been preparing for this mentally for thousands of years." "Fascinating." Talaris gestured to a private seating area designed to accommodate various physiologies. "I've taken the liberty of securing us some privacy." As they settled into the adaptable seating, a service drone approached with refreshments suitable for both species' biochemistry. Morgan eyed the bluish liquid in her glass suspiciously before taking a cautious sip. "It's just water with trace minerals from your home world," Talaris explained. "The station's systems analyzed your biology upon arrival." Morgan set the glass down. "That's both impressive and concerning. The Council likes to know everything about its visitors," Talaris said, "especially potential new members." "Is that what we are? Potential members?" Morgan asked. "From the reception in the chamber, it seemed more like we're potential prisoners." Talaris's skin shifted slightly, displaying subtle patterns that might have indicated emotion. "The Consortium's position is extreme. Not all Council members share their view." "And what's your view, Dr. Venn? Why the interest in humans?" The alien leaned forward slightly. "I've studied 17 sentient species across 12 galactic sectors. None have adapted as quickly to new environments and challenges as humans. Your species went from primitive flight to landing on your moon in less than 70 years. From discovering atomic energy to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. It's unprecedented." Morgan's expression remained neutral. "And that makes us dangerous?" "It makes you unpredictable," Talaris replied. "The Council values stability above all else. Predictability ensures peace." "Peace through stagnation, you mean?" Morgan said. Before Talaris could respond, their conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the deck's entrance. A group of Council security officers, led by a tall reptilian being with crimson scales, approached with purpose. "Admiral Eliza Morgan of Earth," the reptilian announced formally. "The Council requires your immediate presence." Morgan stood smoothly. "The deliberation is complete already?" "Not exactly," the officer replied. "New evidence has been presented. Your input is required." Morgan glanced at Talaris, who appeared genuinely surprised. "This is highly unusual," the xenoanthropologist whispered. "Council deliberations typically last days, sometimes weeks." "I'll come with you," Talaris offered, rising to stand beside Morgan. The security officer hesitated, then nodded curtly. "The Silurian Collective has standing observation rights. You may accompany us." Instead of returning to the Grand Chamber, they were escorted to a smaller, more austere room deep within the station. Unlike the ornate public spaces, this area featured utilitarian design with muted colors and minimal decoration. A semicircular table accommodated 7 senior council members, including Supreme Arbiter Corval. In the center of the room, a holographic display showed a devastated human settlement. Buildings lay in ruins, infrastructure destroyed. It was clearly not the mining colony from Craig's earlier presentation. "Outpost Theta 9, the reptilian security officer announced. "A human research colony on the edge of the Cygnus Arm. All 147 inhabitants dead." Morgan's composure finally broke. "What? When did this happen? We've received no reports of an attack." "Because it wasn't an attack," said a gravelly voice from the shadows. Craig stepped into the light, his massive form somehow even more imposing in the confined space. The Vorsek hunter carried a small container that seemed minuscule in his clawed hands. It was a test, Crag continued. One your people failed. The Supreme Arbiter's form shifted. Crag of the Vorsek has brought this evidence directly to the Council. Given his earlier testimony, we felt it warranted immediate attention. Morgan looked between the Council members and Crag, her eyes narrowing. What kind of test? Crag placed the container on the floor and activated it with a claw. It projected a three-dimensional molecular structure that rotated slowly in the air. This was released into the outpost's environmental system 17 standard cycles ago, Crag explained. A bioweapon designed to target primate neurological systems. Talaris moved closer to examine the projection, skin rippling with intense colors. This is highly sophisticated. The molecular structure suggests Praxian design. The Praxians are consortium members, Morgan said, her voice hardening. Are you suggesting the consortium attacked a peaceful research outpost? One of the Council members, a being composed primarily of flowing liquid contained within a transparent exoskeleton, rose slightly. These are serious accusations, Admiral. The consortium has denied any involvement. Of course they have, Morgan replied sharply. The Supreme Arbiter intervened. We have not convened to assign blame, but to understand. According to Crag, there is more to this incident than a simple attack. The Vorsek hunter manipulated the container, and the hologram shifted to show security footage from the outpost. The timestamps indicated the recording began shortly after the bioweapon was released. The footage showed the human inhabitants beginning to fall ill. But rather than chaos, the response was organized. Medical personnel established quarantine zones. Researchers immediately began analyzing the agent. Engineers modified environmental systems to limit spread. Most surprisingly, as their condition worsened, the humans continued working. Even as the neurological effects became severe, researchers passed their findings to colleagues. Those too sick to continue recorded their symptoms and reactions for others to study. They knew they were dying, Crag said quietly. Yet they chose to use their final hours to help those who would come after them. He advanced the footage. A single researcher remained functional, working alone in a sealed laboratory. The timestamp showed it was 3 days after initial exposure. The woman looked directly at the security camera, her movements jerky and uncoordinated, but her eyes clear and determined. If you're seeing this, she said, her voice slurred but intelligible. We've identified the agent. It's in the database under Protocol Omega. The cure requires. She collapsed before finishing, her body convulsing briefly before going still. Krog deactivated the projection. When the relief team arrived 5 days later, they found this. He produced a small data cylinder and placed it beside the container. The complete molecular structure of the agent, its effects on human physiology, and 16 potential countermeasures, 9 of which would be effective. Craig's yellow eyes fixed on Morgan. They didn't just die. They solved the puzzle. They turned their own deaths into data. The room fell silent. Morgan stared at the cylinder, her face a mask of controlled grief and anger. Supreme Arbiter Corval broke the silence. We share this with you, Admiral Morgan, because it changes the nature of our deliberation. The attack was unauthorized by the Council, but the response, its form seemed to solidify slightly. The response was unprecedented. Talaris stepped forward. I request permission to conduct a formal study of the human response to crisis scenarios. This incident suggests capabilities we have not accounted for in previous assessments. Morgan's gaze snapped to the xenoanthropologist. My people aren't lab specimens, Dr. Venn. Not specimens, Talaris clarified quickly. Potential partners. The Council needs to understand humanity better before rendering judgment. The liquid-based Council member rippled thoughtfully. A joint research mission, perhaps? With human participation and oversight? Morgan considered this for a moment. I would need to consult with Earth Central Command, and I want full disclosure about this attack, including an independent investigation. Craig made a sound that might have been approval. The humans negotiate even when grieving. Note that, Council. Supreme Arbiter Corval extended a limb toward Morgan. We will adjourn to allow Earth time to mourn its losses and consider our proposal. In the meantime, The consortium's petition for containment will be held in abeyance. As the council members departed, Craig lingered, studying Morgan intently. The consortium will not stop with one attack, he said quietly. They fear what they cannot predict. The Earth Embassy on the council station was little more than a repurposed storage section, hastily converted for human use. Unlike the grand chambers of established species, the space was Spartan, functional, and distinctly temporary. Admiral Morgan stood at the center of a hollow projection, showing the faces of Earth's Unified Defense Command. The data from Outpost Theta 9 confirms our worst fears, Morgan reported. The bioweapon was specifically designed to target human neural pathways. This wasn't a random attack. It was a targeted elimination attempt. General Rivera's weathered face showed no emotion, but his voice was tight with controlled anger. And the council claims no knowledge of this? Officially, they've condemned the attack, Morgan replied. But only Craig brought the evidence forward. Without him, we might never have known. Can we trust him? Asked Director Hayes, the head of Earth Intelligence. Her skepticism was evident even through the somewhat distorted projection. The Vorsek aren't known for their humanitarian concerns. Morgan considered this. Craig has his own agenda, certainly. But he's been consistent in one message. Humanity is being underestimated. And that's to our advantage. The final figure in the projection, Ambassador Keita, leaned forward. What about this research mission the xenoanthropologist proposed? It sounds suspiciously like they want to study us like lab rats. It's a compromise, Morgan said. The alternative is the consortium pushing forward with their containment petition. At least this buys us time. The three leaders exchanged glances before General Rivera nodded. Very well, Admiral. You have authorization to proceed with the joint mission, but remember your primary objective. Gather intelligence on Council capabilities and consortium intentions, Morgan affirmed, while appearing to cooperate fully. The projection faded as the communication ended. Morgan turned to find Talaris Venn standing in the doorway, the alien skin shifting through patterns of blue and green. I apologize for the intrusion, Talaris said. Your security systems are minimal. Morgan's expression remained neutral. We're working with limited resources. That will change soon, Talaris replied. The Council has approved our joint expedition. We depart in 6 hours. Morgan raised an eyebrow. That's remarkably fast for Council bureaucracy. Events are accelerating, Talaris explained. The consortium has formally protested Krog's involvement and the postponement of your containment hearing. There are rumors of faction building among the Council representatives. Meaning some believe humanity represents an opportunity, while others see only threat. Talaris moved further into the room, examining the sparse human technology with evident curiosity. Our expedition offers a neutral path forward, a chance for detailed assessment without immediate judgment. Morgan watched the alien carefully. And what do you hope to learn about us, Dr. Venn? Everything, Talaris said simply. But most importantly, what Craig already knows. Why humans respond to existential threats differently than any other species we've encountered. Before Morgan could respond, her communication device chimed. The message was brief. A set of coordinates and a single word of, "Now." It seems I have another appointment, Morgan said, gathering her uniform jacket. I'll meet you at Docking Bay 12 in 5 hours. The expedition vessel is at Bay 7, Talaris corrected. Morgan smiled thinly. I'll be there. I just need to attend to some personal matters first. The coordinates led Morgan to a maintenance section near the outer hull of the station. The area was deserted, the lighting dimmed to conserve energy. As she approached the specified location, a shadow detached itself from the wall. A massive shadow. You're alone, Craig stated, rather than asked. As requested, Morgan replied, though I'm curious why the Council's new star witness wants a clandestine meeting. Craig's yellow eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Because the Council has ears everywhere, and what I have to say is not for them. He produced a small device and activated it. A field of static energy surrounded them, creating a bubble of privacy. The consortium didn't act alone in attacking your outpost, Craig said without preamble. They had help from within the Council. High-level help. Morgan's eyes narrowed. You have proof? I have tracks, Craig replied. And I am a hunter. The bioweapon carried markers of Praxian technology, but its delivery system was Iridian. The Iridians have representatives on 3 council security committees. Why tell me this? Krog moved closer, his massive form looming over Morgan. Because the next attack won't be so limited. The consortium is planning something bigger. Something that will force the council's hand. And you know this how? Morgan challenged. Because they tried to hire me, Craig said, his voice dropping lower. They want the best hunter in the galaxy to track and eliminate a specific human target. Morgan tensed. Who? You. The word hung between them in the static-filled air. They believe removing Earth's representative will throw your species into disarray, proving your instability. Crag continued. They don't understand that humans respond to loss by unifying, not fracturing. And you refuse the contract, Morgan stated. Crag made the arm-spreading gesture she now recognized as respect. I told you before, I will never hunt humans. Especially not one who stands alone before the council without showing fear. What do you want from me, Krag? An alliance, the hunter said. Not formal, not official, but real. I will provide information about the consortium's plans. You will use it to protect your people and expose the corruption within the council. Morgan studied the alien predator. And your price? Knowledge, Krag said. When the time comes, I want to know how humans think, how you strategize, how you turn disadvantage into advantage. You want our military secrets? Krag made a sound that might have been laughter. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are basic. Those aren't your real strengths. He tapped his head with a clawed finger. This is. The human mind is the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. I wish to understand it. Morgan considered the offer. I'll need to consult. No, Krag interrupted. This stays between us. Too many communications increase risk of detection. After a moment, Morgan nodded once. Agreed. How do we maintain contact? Krog handed her a small metallic disc. Quantum entangled, undetectable. It will alert you when I have information and provide a secure meeting location. Why are you really doing this, Krog? It can't just be curiosity. The hunter deactivated the privacy field before answering. Because in 17,000 years of hunting, I have learned one truth. Predators who cannot adapt become prey. The consortium and much of the council have forgotten this. They have been apex too long. His yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter. Change is coming to the galaxy. I prefer to be on the side that embraces it. With that, he disappeared into the shadows, leaving Morgan alone with the disc and her thoughts. When Morgan arrived at Docking Bay 7, Talaris was waiting alongside a small research vessel. The ship was sleek, its hull decorated with the symbols of the Silurian collective Arar known throughout the galaxy for their scientific achievements. I was beginning to worry, Talaris said. The council messenger couldn't locate you. I needed some time to prepare, Morgan replied smoothly. Is this our team? She gestured to the small group of beings loading equipment onto the ship. Besides Talaris, there were 4 other aliens, were each representing different council species and scientific disciplines. Yes, Talaris confirmed. Specialists in xenobiology, psychology, anthropology, and threat assessment. Threat assessment? Morgan raised an eyebrow. Talaris's skin rippled slightly. Standard procedure for contact with newly encountered species. We're hardly newly encountered, Morgan pointed out. Humans have had diplomatic relations with 12 species for over 15 years. Yet the council knows surprisingly little about your actual capabilities, Talaris replied. Your diplomatic missions have been selectively informative. Morgan smiled slightly, just as the council has been selectively informative with us. I imagine, before Talaris could respond, the final member of the expedition approached up, a tall, bipedal being with metallic scales and 6 eyes arranged in a circular pattern around its head. This is Nexus, Talaris introduced. Our security officer and pilot. Nexus made a gesture that might have been a greeting. I've studied your species' combat records. Impressive adaptability under pressure. Thank you, Morgan replied cautiously. Though I hope we won't need combat skills on a scientific mission. Our destination is Outpost Theta 9, Talaris explained. We'll be investigating the attack site directly. Morgan kept her expression neutral, but inwardly she tensed. Outpost Theta 9 was where the humans had died developing a countermeasure to the bioweapon. It would contain sensitive information, or if anything had survived. I thought we were conducting general research on human adaptation, she said. What better place to start than where humans demonstrated their most remarkable adaptive response? Talaris asked. The ability to continue scientific work even while dying from a neurological attack is unprecedented. As they boarded the vessel, Morgan felt the weight of the metallic disc Craig had given her. The hunter's warning echoed in her mind. The next attack won't be so limited. She couldn't help wondering if she was flying directly into it. Why the galaxy's deadliest hunter refuses to hunt humans. Part 4. The research vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a gentle shudder. Through the observation viewport, Outpost Theta 9 hung against the backdrop of a ringed gas giant. The human research station was built into the surface of a moon, its modular structures now dark and lifeless. Admiral Morgan stood silently, studying the outpost where 147 of her people had died. From this distance, there was no visible evidence of the tragedy. No structural damage, no signs of violence, just silence. We'll approach using standard quarantine protocols, Nexus announced from the pilot station. The consortium claims to have neutralized the bioweapon, but verification is required. The consortium has been here? Morgan asked sharply. Talaris's skin rippled in what Morgan had come to recognize as discomfort. Yes. After reporting the incident to the Council, they dispatched a containment team. Standard procedure for biohazard events. Convenient, Morgan muttered. They attack our outpost, then get first access to the scene. The consortium denies responsibility, Talaris reminded her. The Council investigation is ongoing. And yet we're proceeding as if their containment was successful, Morgan pointed out. Nexus turned all 6 eyes toward the human. We have extensive protective measures in place. If you prefer to remain aboard the vessel. No, Morgan interrupted. I'm going down there. The expedition team donned protective suits designed for their varied physiologies. Morgan noted that her suit was markedly different from the others, reinforced in ways that suggested it was designed for combat rather than scientific exploration. Someone had anticipated human resistance. The shuttle descended to the outpost's main landing pad. Automatic systems still functioned, guiding them in despite the facility being otherwise dark. As the team disembarked, Morgan activated her suit's enhanced sensors, scanning for any signs of surveillance or threats. The primary research labs are in the central hub, Talaris explained, leading the way. That's where we should find the most complete records of the human response to the attack. The outpost's corridors were eerily silent, emergency lighting casting long shadows. They passed living quarters, common areas, and workspaces were all abandoned in the middle of daily activities. Meals left half-eaten, entertainment devices still powered on, personal belongings scattered as if their owners had just stepped away momentarily. They didn't panic, noted Viral, the xenopsychologist. His tripod body moved gracefully despite the cumbersome protective suit. There are no signs of widespread fear response or chaotic evacuation. Humans compartmentalize crisis, Morgan said simply. We focus on solutions rather than the problem. They reached the central laboratory complex, its doors sealed by emergency protocols. Nexus interfaced with the security system, bypassing the lockdown with Council override codes. Interesting, Morgan commented. The Council has override authority for human research facilities? Universal emergency protocols, Talaris explained quickly. For rescue operations. The doors slid open, revealing the main laboratory. Unlike the rest of the outpost, which showed signs of normal life interrupted, the lab was a scene of intense focused activity. Equipment had been reconfigured for emergency analysis. Workstations were clustered together for easier collaboration. Handwritten notes covered walls and displays. A backup method when digital systems began to fail. At the center of the lab stood a sealed containment chamber. Inside was a single workstation where the final researcher had made her last recording. The one Craig had shown them at the council meeting. Remarkable, Vrel said, examining the notes. They established a complete research protocol within hours of exposure. Multiple parallel investigation tracks, failover procedures, contingency planning. They knew they were dying, Morgan said quietly. They wanted to ensure their deaths had meaning. The xenobiologist, a floating gas bag entity named Tulm, hovered near a sealed sample storage unit. The bioweapon samples appear intact along with their research into countermeasures. Morgan moved toward the storage unit. We should secure those immediately. If the weapon was designed specifically for humans or ARM, all materials will be cataloged and transferred to Council quarantine. Nexus interrupted, positioning himself between Morgan and the storage unit. For safety. Those samples were collected by human researchers who died to obtain them, Morgan argued. They belong to Earth. They are evidence in a Council investigation, Nexus countered. Protocol is clear. Morgan was about to protest further when her suit's sensors detected a subtle vibration, almost imperceptible, but growing stronger. She glanced at her teammates, but none seemed to notice. Is the station's power core still active? She asked casually. Talaris checked a handheld scanner. Minimal function only. Environmental systems, emergency lighting, and basic maintenance, the vibration increased slightly. Morgan recognized the pattern, not mechanical, but the rhythmic pulse of approaching engines. Someone was coming. She tapped her suit's communication system. Our ship isn't detecting any unusual activity, is it? Negative, came the response from their pilot, who had remained aboard. All systems normal. No other vessels in sensor range. Morgan's training kicked in. Either their sensors were being jammed, or whoever was approaching was using stealth technology beyond their capabilities. I think we should expedite our sample collection, she suggested. The station system seemed less stable than reported. Talaris gave her a curious look but nodded. Agreed. Tome, begin documenting the biological samples. Vral, copy all research data. Nexus, secure the perimeter. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Morgan moved to a secondary console and discreetly accessed the outpost's external sensors. They were basic by Council standards but had been modified by the human researchers. She bypassed the main system using an emergency protocol that only Earth officers knew. The external feed confirmed her suspicion. A vessel was approaching the far side of the moon, using the natural magnetic field for cover. Its configuration matched no Earth design, but the energy signature was familiar. Consortium. Morgan weighed her options. Warning the team would reveal that she had accessed systems outside her authorization. Staying silent could put them all at risk. Before she could decide, the metallic disc Crag had given her vibrated against her skin through the suit. The hunter had warned her. Somehow he knew. Talaris, Morgan called out. I found something in the primary researcher's logs. You should see this. The xenoanthropologist joined her at the console. Morgan pointed to a section of data while simultaneously bringing up the external sensor feed on a secondary screen. Talaris's skin flashed with patterns Morgan hadn't seen before. Consortium raiders, the alien whispered. Does it matter? Morgan cut in. We need to evacuate now. Talaris hesitated only briefly before nodding. Attention team. Abandon research protocols. Priority 1 evacuation. Reason? Nexus demanded, all 6 eyes focusing intensely on Talaris. Hostile forces approaching, Talaris replied. Consortium signature. Impossible, Nexus stated. Our ship detected nothing. Human sensors detected them, Morgan explained. The researchers modified their equipment after initial contact with the consortium. Nexus stared at her for a long moment before making a decision. Secure essential samples only. We depart in 5 minutes. The team worked quickly, gathering the most critical data and samples. Morgan downloaded the station logs to her suit's storage system, a backup in case they didn't make it out with the official samples. As they headed back toward their shuttle, the station trembled. The raiders had landed. Accelerate, Nexus ordered. Combat protocols activated. The security officer's suit began to transform, weapon systems emerging from concealed compartments. Morgan noted the modifications with professional interest. Nexus was clearly more than just a pilot. They reached the main corridor leading to the landing pad when the lights failed completely. Emergency backups flickered weakly, then stabilized at minimal output. They're cutting power to trap us, Morgan observed. Standard boarding procedure. You seem familiar with their tactics, Admiral, Nexus commented. I study potential adversaries, she replied evenly. Don't you? A heavy impact shook the corridor ahead. Metal groaned as something forced an entry point through the station's outer hull. Alternative route, Talaris decided, gesturing toward a maintenance passage. This way. The narrow passage forced them to move in single file, with Nexus leading and Morgan taking the rear position. Her suit's sensors detected movement behind them, multiple signatures closing fast. Contact imminent, she warned. Less than 30 seconds, Nexus turned back. Continue to the shuttle, he ordered the others. The Admiral and I will delay them. Morgan raised an eyebrow but didn't protest. As the rest of the team hurried ahead, Nexus moved beside her. Combat experience? He asked. Some, Morgan replied, activating her suit's defensive systems. The protective gear was more capable than she had initially let on. Consortium raiders don't take prisoners, Nexus stated. They're here to eliminate witnesses and secure evidence. I figured as much, Morgan said. Any particular reason you're staying behind with me? Professional curiosity, Nexus admitted. I want to see how humans fight when cornered. Morgan allowed herself a small smile. Craig could have told you. Why the galaxy's deadliest hunter refuses to hunt humans. Part 5. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from nearly 3,000 civilizations packed the tiered seating, with overflow crowds watching via holographic projection in adjacent chambers. The emergency session had been called with unprecedented urgency, bypassing the usual protocols and ceremonial procedures. Supreme Arbiter. Corval stood at the center of the chamber, its shadowy form more solid than usual, a sign of the gravity of the situation. Beside it stood Admiral Eliza Morgan, her uniform torn and stained, but her posture as straight as ever. The contrast between the imposing alien arbiter and the seemingly fragile human was striking. This council is now in session, Corval announced, its voice resonating throughout the vast space. We convene to address evidence of conspiracy, attempted genocide, and violation of foundational council principles. Murmurs spread through the gathered delegates. Many eyes focused on the consortium section, where several seats were conspicuously empty. 3 standard cycles ago, Corval continued, a research team investigating the attack on human outpost Theta 9 was itself attacked by consortium forces. Their intent was to eliminate witnesses and destroy evidence of their prior actions against humanity. The chamber's central holographic display activated, showing footage from the outpost. The images showed Admiral Morgan and Nexus facing the consortium raiders in the narrow corridor. What happened next caused gasps even from species normally reserved in their reactions. Instead of engaging in direct combat as expected, Morgan had disabled the corridor's environmental systems. In the sudden darkness and fluctuating gravity, the heavily armed raiders found their advantages neutralized. Morgan and Nexus separated, using the confined space to channel the attackers into prepared positions. The footage showed Morgan seemingly retreating, drawing 2 raiders away from the main group. When they pursued her into a laboratory section, she utilized the equipment itself as weapons of chemical compounds, pressure vessels, even furniture became improvised tools of warfare. Note the human's methodology, Corval commented. Minimal reliance on technology, maximum use of environment and psychology. The display shifted to show Nexus engaging the remaining raiders with conventional weapons. Despite his advanced combat suit, he was gradually being overwhelmed by superior numbers. Then Morgan reappeared, having neutralized her pursuers. She didn't directly assist Nexus. Instead, she triggered the station's fire suppression system, filling the corridor with high-density foam that immobilized everyone awoe, including herself and Nexus. A sacrifice play, Corval explained. The Admiral correctly calculated that the consortium raiders' heavier armor would make them more restricted in the hardening compound, while her team could eventually extract themselves. The footage ended with the research vessel returning with reinforcements, a Vorsek cruiser led by Cragg himself. Corval turned to Morgan. Admiral, please explain to the Council how you summoned assistance. Morgan stepped forward. I didn't, at least not directly. When we detected the consortium vessel, I activated a passive data transmitter containing evidence we had gathered at the outpost. It was programmed to broadcast to multiple recipients if I failed to enter a cancellation code every 30 minutes. And who were these recipients? Corval asked. Earth Command, Morgan replied. The Silurian Collective, and Krag of the Vorsek. This revelation caused another stir among the delegates. Coordinating with a Vorsek hunter was unprecedented for a species as new to the galactic community as humanity. The evidence contained in that transmission has been verified by 3 independent council investigators, Corval announced. It confirms that elements within the consortium, with assistance from certain council representatives, orchestrated the attack on Outpost Theta 9 as a test of human response capabilities. The main doors of the chamber opened, and Cragg entered. The massive hunter carried a container similar to the one he had presented during the earlier session. Behind him came Talaris, Nexus, and the other members of the research team. Crag of the Vorsek has petitioned to address the council, Corval stated. Given his role in these events, the petition has been granted. Crag moved to the center of the chamber, dwarfing Morgan despite her refusing to give ground. I have hunted across 17,000 worlds, Crag began, using the same opening as before. I have ended threats that many here refuse to acknowledge. He activated the container, which projected a complex three-dimensional display of interconnected data points and communications. This is the network of those responsible for the attacks on humanity, Craig explained. 7 consortium leaders, 12 council representatives, 3 independent weapons developers, all coordinating to eliminate what they perceived as a threat, human unpredictability. The display zoomed in on specific communications, financial transactions, and deployment orders. The evidence was overwhelming. The question this council must now answer is simple, Krag continued. Are you a body of law or a tool of those who fear change? Supreme Arbiter Corval's form shifted. The evidence has been examined and verified. Those implicated will face judgment according to council law. That's not enough, Morgan interrupted, causing a shocked silence to fall over the chamber. Few dared to interrupt the Supreme Arbiter. Admiral, Corval prompted, its tone unreadable. 147 humans died at Outpost Theta 9, Morgan said, her voice carrying clearly despite its quietness. 6 more died defending the evidence that brings us here today. Justice for the guilty is necessary but not sufficient. What does humanity demand? Corval asked. Morgan looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, sensory organs, or perceptual apparatuses of as many delegates as she could. Recognition, she stated simply, not as a primitive species to be studied or contained or tested, but as equals, as partners in this galactic community. Corval was silent for a long moment. That would require waiving the standard observation period for new spacefaring species. It has never been done. Unprecedented circumstances require unprecedented responses, Morgan countered. Isn't that the lesson here? The inability to adapt to the unexpected is what drove the conspiracy against us. Craig made his arm-spreading gesture of respect. The human speaks truth. This council has grown rigid in its thinking. It sees difference as threat rather than opportunity. Talaris stepped forward, skin rippling with intense patterns. The research team's findings support this position. Human adaptability is not a danger to be contained, but a resource to be embraced. Their approach to problem-solving is fundamentally different from established council species. Nexus, standing beside Talaris, activated a projection from his suit. It showed the battle at the outpost from his perspective, focusing on Morgan's unconventional tactics. I have served as a security officer for 73 years, Nexus stated. I have engaged hostiles from 42 different species. None have approached combat as the human Didao, not seeking to overpower, but to change the nature of the conflict itself. Murmurs spread through the chamber again, but this time with a different tone. Curiosity rather than fear. Interest rather than suspicion. Supreme Arbiter Corval raised its limbs for silence. The council will vote on 2 matters. First, the punishment of those involved in the conspiracy. Second, the status of humanity within the galactic community. The voting process was swift by council standards. The conspirators were sentenced to isolation and rehabilitation. The vote on humanity's status was closer, but the outcome clear. Full recognition as a council species, with all rights and responsibilities that entailed. As the session ended, delegates approached Morgan with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Questions about Earth, human culture, and potential cooperation came from all sides. Krog watched from a distance, yellow eyes observing every interaction. When the crowd thinned, he approached Morgan one final time. You have achieved what no species has before, he said. Acceptance without submission. Morgan looked up at the fearsome hunter. Did we pass your test, Krog? Was this what you wanted to see? My test? Krog made a sound that might have been laughter. Admiral, everything since our first meeting has been your test of us. You used the conspiracy against you to force the council to reveal its true nature. Morgan didn't confirm or deny this. Will you visit Earth someday? You might find it interesting. Perhaps, Craig replied, but not to hunt. No, Morgan agreed. As a guest. As Craig departed, Talaris joined Morgan. The research team has been granted permission to continue our work with Earth's consent, of course. There's so much we could learn from each other. There is, Morgan acknowledged. But first I need to return home. My people need to know what happened here. And what did happen here, Admiral? Talaris asked. Beyond the official record? Morgan looked around the Grand Chamber, at the species that had so recently viewed humanity as a threat to be contained or eliminated. Now they approached with curiosity and offers of exchange. The galaxy's deadliest hunter reminded everyone of an important truth, she said finally. Evolution doesn't favor the strongest or the most advanced. It favors those who adapt. And humans are the best at adaptation, Talaris concluded. For now, Morgan said with a slight smile, but the beauty of adaptation is that others,